First up is the Department of Transportation. I think Mr. Byron Flood here is going to present to us. Just be sure your mic is on and shows green. I'm not sure if anybody's on with us via Zoom, but just in case. The button. There you go. You got it.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman Branning and Chairman Hobson, committee members, for giving us the opportunity to come before you and talk about our 2024 budget request. The request that we have for 2024 is very similar to what we had. It's actually identical to the appropriated amount for 2023. The second page of the presentation shows the comparison of revenues. And really what I'd like to point out here is that there's a large increase in federal funds. And then at the bottom of the page, there's a large increase in receipts and transfers. The federal funds were due to the IIJA transportation bill, and then the receipts and transfers was due to the generosity of the legislature in providing money for match, for capacity, and for maintenance projects. So when you look at the comparison of revenues, that's really what went up from 2022 actuals to 23, and then for the requested amount in 2024. You see fuel tax and all of our other taxes and fees remain essentially the same from one year to the next. On the next page, you see the budget as appropriated, or excuse me, I'm sorry, you had to see the details of the receipts and transfers that I spoke about on the previous page. We have reimbursements from outside, which is a small category. We have obviously the lottery, which provides up to $80 million a year for MDOT to do projects. And for 22, we had 54 million was reimbursed to us out of the lottery proceeds fund. We anticipate the full 80 million in 23 and also in 24. Obviously, the next category was new in 2023, and that's the maintenance project fund, 45 million. Happy to say that that money is obligated. It has been let to contract and it's on the street. The capacity fund of 35 million was provided by the legislature as well as the IIJA match. So that's what brings the category of receipts and transfers up from 70 million to 239 million for both 23 and 24. The next page is just appropriated by program, comparison of budgets by program. And again, you see the construction program is what went up and the maintenance, but primarily the construction because of the additional federal funds and the capacity fund and the match fund. Those would be expended in the construction program. You can see that in the maintenance program, we go up from 205 to 264. That's the additional 45 million maintenance project fund would be expended out of that program. The administration program, we just hold steady at 62. You do see a small decrease in the aeronautics, rails, transit and ports program. That's because of CARES Act money that came to the transit program in 2020. Most of that money has kind of flowed through the agency already. And so we're getting back to a more normal aeronautics, rails, transit and ports program. And then debt service is flat at about 73 million. That comprises help debt service, which is about 68 to 69, and also $5 million transfer to the treasurer for debt service associated with previous bonds. So 73 million moving forward. It'll be flat for a couple of years and then it'll start to decline as some of the help bond issues roll off. And then lastly is budget by object. Again, what you see is the categories that change are capital outlay payments to contractors because of the additional money provided by the legislature, as well as the additional federal funds. The other categories remain flat. There was actually a decrease in the request for travel from 23 to 24 of 300,000. You have a big increase from the actual expenditures to capital outlay. And again, the request is the same for 24 as we were appropriated for 23. And that's all I have, Chairman. If y'all have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Okay, I defer to Chairman Hodson. Mr. Chairman, do you have any questions? I do have a few.
Okay.
On the sheet that's generated by the Legislative Budget Office, there is noted here a decrease, a decrease to the LBR of about 27 million for the salaries. And I think we compare that with what you've requested. Can you explain the difference to us and maybe the reason for the $190 million request?
Yes. The way LBO, they used to figure it on pins, but now I think it's head count, but they basically eliminated all vacant positions, I believe is the way the methodology goes for that. And so as an agency, we're just starting to make changes to the number of employees we have. We've had success over the last year or so with the additional funds that were provided by the legislature in the salaries category to retain employees, to actually prevent employees from retiring. And we're just starting to turn that around, and we'll let Brad speak to that if.
I think it's common for elbow to go back to whatever the base level is. And so that's the difference, is where we're at the current salary, not based on where we would be if we continue the momentum of filling the vacancies we have in maintenance and engineers and stuff like that.
Well, and let me ask a little bit more of a pointed question, because I don't want to be misleading in the way I ask it. I know that we've worked over time to make sure that we're moving in a direction that you're able to attract and retain your engineers and your staff. I think that's been a real problem over time. We want to equip you to do that, I think, for a couple of reasons. And one of those is to bring some of your services in-house. I think it saves the state money. So I guess what I'm alluding to is some of this request a result of the changes that you've made internally? Because I know that there have been some of your, well, I guess talk to us about what you've done with your positions there. You've been able to give some raises or realign some people.
Right.
That's sort of what I want an update on, I think.
Sure. The legislature was very kind in giving us I think it's the 190 million line item for our salaries, which was far above what we needed for our current employees. What that allowed us to do is to take advantage of what SEC squared with the State Personnel Board offered for us to begin realigning salaries agency-wide with engineers as well as our first responders in an effort to try to stop the bleeding As y'all will remember, in the previous year, we had lost nearly 40 engineers, and our maintenance crews were just, that's where a bulk of people we had lost. And so over the course of the last year, thanks to that and with SEC squared, we have effectively stopped the bleeding of losing engineers and maintenance workers. We're retaining what we have. Unfortunately, the pace with which we're doing that, our starting pay for our frontline workers is still less than $12 an hour. So a lot of this is designed, our request is designed because while we've done a lot and we're very thankful for that, we've still got some ways to go, I think, to get us to a point to where we can accomplish and have a fully functioning agency. And the point that you mentioned before, we were spending in excess of 60 million a year, I think, on consultants that would do a lot of the work that at one time MDOT did internally. And we think that with the fully staffed, we could go back to doing a lot of that work for a fraction of the cost of the taxpayer. When the 87 4-lane program was adopted, a lot of that was done in-house by our staff when MDOT was fully staffed. And if we had a program like that now, we would not be able to deliver on those services or to take care of that with the team that we have internally now. Hopefully, by continuing to move down the road and working with the personnel board to make these alignments, we'll be positioned to not only stop the bleeding, but to enhance our ability to recruit the necessary professionals with which to carry out the mission, which, as you said, the idea would be as our engineering staff goes up, we are able to do more internally and the cost of private consultants would go down.
Any questions about the committee members? Okay, I think that's all that all the questions we have for you today.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much, Madam
you.
Chairman. We appreciate y'all's willingness to work with us so well.
Thank you. State aid, Mr. Haley, James, you can come on up. Next up is State Aid Road. You can come on up. Okay, Mr. James, we are ready when you are. Okay.
Okay, thank you all very much for allowing us to be here before you today. I'm Harry Lee James. I'm the state aid engineer. With me is Kristen Eaton, who is my deputy over, she's my budget director. She's over finance and administration. Pretty much everything I don't do engineering wise, she handles in the office, from accounting to everything else. So again, thank y'all for the opportunity to be here today. We usually fly under the radar pretty good. We're pretty good at it too, I might add. Our budget request is pretty much in line with where it has been in the past. We are looking at maybe a few adjustments to it since we submitted it. One, the local system bridge program, which is funded through revenue from the use tax. Use tax has been blowing and going this year, consequently such that we've actually received $20 million in the first 6 months versus what we normally would see in a year. So in the carry forward, we're going to make that adjustment. Instead of the 30 million, we're going to ask for 40 to be, expressed in that. We are in the last year of a board term, and things typically slow down for us in that last year, construction wise, because we kind of, first, everybody's run out of money at the county level typically. So we usually see slowdowns in construction projects and everything, even though I think the bridge programs are still allowed to go full wide open due to, past statutes that allow that through ERBR, LSBP and other funding that's, streams that are out there. The biggest challenge we have is probably, an echo of what y'all have heard from everybody else you talked to, is personnel and staff. I've currently got 6 vacancies. I'm looking at up to 3 or 4 people retiring at the end of the year. And when you take a small agency like ours that has 54 pins in it, and you lose 6 people, and what I lost earlier, but I've gained back all but 1, were accountants, because we're mostly accountants or engineers. It's hard finding that, that quality staff. So we've kind of since we've come back from the holidays, gone into retention mode, trying to keep the people we have. Because I don't think it occurred to anybody. I know it didn't occur to me last year, but terminal leave is quite an expense for us when you get people that decide they're going to leave or retire. And actually, I've got a technician that's leaving us and going to Federal Highway the end of this month. And he is basically going to double his salary. So, there's no way I can get him to.
Did you say an engineer is leaving?
No, he's just a technician.
Just a
He's a
technician.
program worker, program manager.
What would be his salary within the agency, just a ballpark?
He is at what, 51, I think, and he's going up into his salary will be equivalent to what my engineers are making in the upper 80s or low 90s. So, but it's, and he doesn't have enough time to retire. That's what's so, he's got 20 years because he worked for us and worked for MDOT, but he's still young. He's 45. He's got 20 years before he can be able to draw his, state retirement. So he's just going to leave it there and then, play the gambit with the, the federal funds, federal job. So anyway, that's the hardest thing. I also know there was executive compensation was not included in our salary line because it occurred after the budget year was, thrown in. So that's something we've kind of been playing with that with our adjustments we're looking at making and everything. But we do plan on getting that number to Rob and Lee over in the house and tell them what that ultimate number, what we're looking at. Try to maximize the use, but again, we're looking at just trying to keep people in place because most of the people in there have some longevity to them. They've been there for a while and we want to keep them. They know what they're doing. We try to get them to multitask and learn different, different areas and work for somebody if you have somebody out. COVID really showed us what we could do and what we couldn't do. So we've gotten kind of good at it, but it also, again, shows you where the deficiencies laid in us trying to run our operation.
Let me ask, it appears that you were requesting basically level funding in all categories, and then you're asking for an increase in the salaries portion. Now, this is just at this point, I realize you may want to have continued discussions, but I'm just looking at what we have right now. It looks like you were asking to add back 4 different positions, an accounting supervisor. No. 2 positions. You're adding back 2 positions. I'm saying this really for the benefit of the other committee members so that we understand kind of what your request is. Adding back 2 positions. And then it looks like you are changing titles in some other positions. Can you sort of talk us through what that request looks like?
That is, part of that is, well, I guess all of it is true, but because of SEC squared, changing titles and things, because a lot of times we get lumped in with what MDOT does, and we're not like MDOT at all. MDOT owns all their assets, they've got people out in the field that work and everything. I've got people in the field that work, but they're my district engineers. And then I've got program managers internally that manage those programs, which is basically the funds that y'all appropriate for us, either for the local system bridge program or the state aid program, as we administer those funds to the counties and get their programs that they submit to us on a board term basis, prepared and meeting any kind of requirements, state or federal, that are required for permitting and all like that. So it's a challenge finding people that understand what we do, and we have to have a certain caliber. So when we were trying to upgrade some positions and things, at one time we weren't able to advertise the change. The position is changed until, if I'm saying this right, until we actually got it changed and hired into it. I mean, it's been quite a challenge for us, particularly for, like I say, for a small agency that I've got one HR person, and I worked the fool out of her trying to get stuff in addition to what Kristen knows about stuff too. So I hope I've explained myself, but
I think you have. Are there any questions from any of the committee members? Mr. Chairman?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Harry Lee, as it relates to title changes, if I understand you, you want to move people into different positions. Is that right? You want to give them a different title?
yes, that's some of the titles they were in and got stuck in as a result of SEC squared. Didn't necessarily fit what they actually did.
Have you talked to SPB about that?
We
'Cause
we
that
have,
was
and
the whole-
it's an ongoing conversation, trying to find a classification that they fit in where, like I said, I've got, in some areas, I may have only 2 people. So if you got one that's a supervisor, the other's got to be the subordinate.
Yeah.
So trying to find those and getting them where, they are compensated for, what they've done, and get them out of just the kind of the commodity type position that they may have been put in.
Well, we need, that was one of the real concerns with SPB, is making sure we didn't just give titles to people, because a lot of people abuse that system, and that's one thing we're shifting away from. And so, I mean, if their position and the work they're doing qualifies them for a different title, then yes, they should have it. But we don't want to shift people just because we like the work they're doing and they're not, that person don't meet the qualifications to do the job that the title is afforded.
I understand and fully support that. And we're trying to get people in the right job class,
Okay.
so that they can do what they're needing to do, and not just be just a tech that you would hire off the street, or somebody that's got, 2 years of experience in junior college. These are people that, have skill sets that are crucial to us being able to maintain, what we're doing.
So it's not really a title change. It's just I think what I'm understanding you to say, you think they're improperly classified.
Right. You got it. They're
Okay, all
improperly
That's what
classified.
I
So
want
trying to get them in the right setting. We've been working, strategically with SPB to make sure that they are, because I can assure you, they are on top of this. If they're not something they like, or think it's not justified, they will let us know in a heartbeat, and we got to figure out a way to get them to the point where, where it works for both of us, put it that way.
Yeah. Thank you, Harry Lee. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Let me get a little clarification from you. The sheet that you provided under the funds section, You mentioned to us that the LSBP formula has generated more than the 20 million. We've had a good last few months on that. You mentioned 30 to 40 million. If I understood you, I just want to make sure, is that amount worked into the special fund dollar figure that's here? Or do we need to make sure that the analyst has the correct? In other words, we just want to make sure you have all the authority that's needed for the special funds that are at your disposal.
$20 is a guaranteed minimum based on the 5% of the collection.
Okay,
But as I said, that 5% is greatly exceeding, or the amount is greatly exceeding the 5%. In our past bill, the current bill, it shows 30 million
okay,
in there, and we're wanting to, because of the, basically the doubling of the amount that we're seeing coming in, we want to go push that up to 40, because we work in, first half of this, fiscal year, second half, and we can't, even though we can move money from one to the other, we'd rather, be as close as we can.
okay. We just want to make sure that the request reflects everything that you need from us as far as spending authority for the special funds. I think what I'm hearing from you is that we need to put 40 million here instead of 20.
Right.
We agree with that?
Yeah,
Okay.
and
Thank
that's
you.
in that, carry forward language. It's the, I guess, the last page. Yeah, section 4, and we didn't put an amount in there. We thought maybe one time we just wouldn't put a value in there, but we would have to have a value in there. So it's, it makes the budget balance. So, but we intend to, or would like to have that figure, 40 million this coming.
Okay, we'll make a note of that here
Okay.
going forward. Does anybody else have questions? Any members?
Do I need to bring up, or do you want me to bring up my state aid bridge program? Or?
You can, if you've got something else you want us to know.
Well, it's been evident to me, we're finally honing in, thanks to y'all's help with funding and Senator Branning working with her. In 18, when Governor Bryant declared the bridge crisis, from there, we've gotten from 540 closed bridges statewide to now we're at about 240. 300 less bridges for several reasons. Not that we've taken some off the inventory that weren't classified, that really shouldn't have been bridges. Some were rebuilt, just a lot of different reasons and everything. But what has come up is local system bridge program is funded through use tax, and that's all it funds is bridges. State aid program funds, which is $4 million a month minimum guarantee, or 23.25% of the base, is the base or the amount above the base tax, but it's fuel tax revenue. But it funds roads and bridges. It's about 200, and between that and the little bit of sales tax we get, it's, I think, 201 million or 204 million over a board term. But it's not enough to fund both roads and bridges. So what is happening is the roads have been funded in the past and the bridges were just kind of left out in the cold. And we're seeing now the results of that. There are just hundreds of bridges out there on the state aid system that are just going to, to pot because nobody's funding them and everything. So what I'm wanting to do is to find just some seed money, another 20 million a year. It can be an exact amount. It doesn't have to be a percentage of anything. And then create a program. We can do it internally within our own mechanism, where first, it doesn't need to be allocated under state aid formula. It needs to be allocated similar to where the LSBP funds are allocated. And then basically, if we can figure out a way to require a match or something of the counties to use some of their use tax money. I mean, they're getting well off of the use tax, and make them have some skin in the game, so to speak. I mean, and these are one-time expenditures. I mean, these are lifetime, costs that they'll see. They make you you put a bridge in, and it'll last 60 to 80 years, or should, in many cases. So it's something we'll build one time, and then whoever comes in, years from now, we'll see it happen again. So it's not like it's a recurring expenditure, but it is right now a recurring expenditure because we're so far behind on getting caught up with things. So between the ER funding, adequately funding the ERBR program, and then something like this, in a few years, I think we could make tremendous strides on eliminating another downside to county infrastructure. And just think of the impact it has negatively on the rural economy, the ag economies, when you can't go across a bridge. I mean, think of your bridge down there across the Buffalo River. I mean, that's a classic example, even though it's local system, but it's still, it's a good example of what you can do. Thankfully, it's got $7 million on its, on the cost of it already, funded. It does, yeah, thanks to y'all's, funding. So anyway. Okay, thank y'all for your,
Thank you.
for
Just want to
your-
make sure, does anybody have questions about the information you just gave us on the bridges? Okay. Yes, sir. Go ahead. Senator Butler.
First, thank you so much for mentioning that because that was very, very important to me. But with the new money that you're talking about for bridges, would it be, I guess, given out the same way you do roads and roads? As far as how would they know that the money is available and, and how would they know?
we put out at the beginning of a board term, we do a revenue projection to the boards and tell them how much money as a minimum they're guaranteed to get over that 4-year board term, both under the state aid program under the local system bridge program. We would project that out using that two-part formula that we would create. Because state aid bridges, they're 10% more in number, but they are 70% larger inside than the comparable local system bridges. I mean, because the roads are more, I don't say more important, but there's more of them out there and everything. So we would let them know of the amount of monies they had to the fund to use over the coming 4-year term and everything, and then with the match money and everything. We know we can't solve all the problems at one time, but you got to take a step at a time, and this it's been shown in the past from y'all's funding that's been given to us and what we work with the counties. Little bites work best for us because most of our projects are small. We're trying to get some of the bigger ones out of the way. That was one of the bigger ones.
Okay, so are bridges rated? Do you have like a scale or say, all right, this is the worst bridge, this the big?
We do inspections on them. The highest, the best bridge, if it's a 10, it's good. It's like brand new. When it gets down to 4, you better start watching it. 3, it's probably on the verge of being closed. So, and they're inspected typically annually, no more than every 2 years. It may have divers go in, like down at Buffalo, and look at the parts of the structure below water. You got the above, ground inspections that are done. We have engineering consultants. We have the 9 that we contract with through MDOT. We've got the 35 county engineers that do all these inspections for us on an annual basis. So it's a big program. It's about a $30 million program a year that we manage.
Okay, so do the ones that on the 3s, the 2s, do they have first choice to the money? I guess that's where I'm trying to.
Well, if in their county and they've got money, then those are the ones typically that are picked. But we don't pick the bridges. The supervisors pick the bridges.
Oh,
And unless it's ARBR, and then MDOT picks the bridges, picks the projects on that. So.
all right. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
You saw that?
Yes, indeed.
Suppose that had been the picture.
I understand it.
We'd really be talking about something,
I think they
wouldn't we?
got it out of there.
Yeah. So, yeah, they got removed the rig Sunday week ago. So,
I do have a follow-up on that. You mentioned requirement for a county match. What, in your opinion, would be an appropriate match requirement should the legislature at some point decide to put a program into place that you've described?
what I'm thinking, because in the past, prior to 16 or 17, when federal funds did go to the counties for construction projects, they were typically at a 20% match. So this is really to supplant that money that we don't receive anymore for construction projects. It goes to bridge inspection now. So you're taking away the 30 million that's being spent for bridge inspection at no cost to the counties, and then putting 24 million essentially with the 20 plus a 20% match back to the counties to be able to start a construction program just for bridges again.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
yes, sir.
All right, anybody have anything else? Okay, thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
start whenever you're ready. Just, if you'll just click your microphone on, I don't, we had it. Yeah, just be
So-
sure it's great. There you go. It's on.
Okay. I'm ready if you guys are. Well, my name is Mitch Mays. I'm the administrator for the Tennessee Tombigbee Waterway Development Authority. We're a four-state compact between the states of Mississippi, Alabama, Kentucky, and Tennessee. We first formed in 1958 with the intent of advocating for the building of the Tenn-Tom Waterway. Since the waterway opened in 1985, we have evolved into promoting the waterway. The way I always describe this is kind of like a quasi-economic development. However, we don't promote a county, we promote just the waterway. So to business and industry, and also to tourism and recreational use as well. So what we are asking for this year from the state of Mississippi is $250,000. Currently, we are at 100 and I forget the exact number, 156, is it? 159. So we're asking for an increase. We have gotten increases from two of the other states. Alabama, when I first started 6 years ago, we were at 89,000 with the state of Alabama. Now we're up to 105. I think we'll be able to get that up to 110 this year. Alabama does their budget a little different. In Alabama, the governor proposes a budget. The legislature kind of goes along with it. They'll tweak it here and there, but whatever the governor recommends is pretty much what the legislature will go with. Whereas you guys, the legislature sets the spending, and the governor, be with it or not, but the legislature sets the spending. The way we're funded from Tennessee and Kentucky is we receive money through their respective departments of transportation. Tennessee, that's $50,000, and then Kentucky just recently increased their contribution to $85,000. So I'm going to be working with Tennessee to try and get that. The question always comes up, why does Mississippi provide more? A really important reason. One, the office is in Columbus, Mississippi. It's a four-state compact, and we receive money from the other states, but also the majority of the Tenn-Tom Waterway is in the state of Mississippi. So the state realizes a greater benefit on the investment waterway by the federal. Two big things that I do want to bring to your attention. We have two big projects that was recently announced using the Tenn-Tom Waterway in Viva, which I'm sure all of you have heard about. It's a wood pellet manufacturer. They have a small plant in Amory, and they ship their finished pellet through the Port of Mobile to Pascagoula, where Inviva is building a new terminal. But Inviva is also building a new manufacturing plant in Epps, Alabama, which it's in Alabama, but it's pretty close to the state line. But that's still going to benefit the Tenn-Tom because of increased tonnage waterway. So the formula that the federal government uses, the more tonnage is on the waterway, the more money they give to operate the waterway. We don't own the waterway, the federal government. But we do promote. Also, Steel Dynamics just announced that the guys last year passed the incentive package for them to do a new aluminum project. So there's going to be more investment in Mississippi because of the Tenn-Tom Waterway. Those are the kind of companies that we promote the waterway to. So why are we asking for an increase? I need me, one other person, have an office manager that works with me, but I'd like to hire someone to help me with the marketing and economic development aspect of the waterway. As you can imagine, I'm here in Jackson last week to visit with the house, and now with you, but I also have to go to Montgomery, and I have to go to Nashville, and I also have to bring Kentucky to visit legislators there as well. And then I'm constantly going to Washington, D.C. DC to work with our federal delegation, to make sure funding continues for the operation of the waterway. One other thing that I did want to bring to your attention, I don't know if I put it on that list, but we were recently able to convince the Congress to appropriate $2.6 million to start a deepening study. This is a study that will be the hopefully first steps to deepening the waterway. Right now, the channel is 9 foot. We would like the channel depth to be 12 foot. We were able to convince the Senate and the House to appropriate $2.6 million to start this study. Eventually, the study will cost about $11 million, but that will not cost the state of Mississippi anything other than what you contribute to us to represent you working with the federal government. The other big thing that we were able to get, I'm sure all of you have heard of the Asian carp issue. Well, it's becoming an issue on the Tin Tom as well. So we're kind of trying to head this off at the pass. There's a new technology that's called a BAF system. It's a bioacoustic fish fins. So we were able to get into the 2022 Water Resources Development Act authorization to put a new barrier on the Tin Tom. It's only one, but we hope with working with Mississippi Department of Wildlife and Fisheries and U.S. Fish and Wildlife to determine the appropriate place to put this and eventually get the federal government to pay for that as well. So these things do not come out of Mississippi's budget or anything like that, pay for those items. But those are two really big things that, well, the deepening study only took me 4 years to get them to authorize it and then start paying for it. So as you can imagine, wheels turn slowly. But those are a couple of efforts that we're really proud of.
Okay, let me jump in with some questions. Say again for the committee, how many employees do you have currently?
We have 2.
You've just got 2. That includes,
Authorized, we have 3 pins,
okay.
but we only have 2 employees.
Of the $250,000 that you're requesting in the form of increase, how much of that is for salaries?
Yeah, the way we apply for when we do our online budget request, the way we use the Mississippi money is specifically for salaries. And then whatever we don't have from Mississippi money to pay for salaries, we use the other state's money to pay.
I guess to kind of drill down a little bit deeper, how many people are you looking to hire, and then what what positions and how much are you wanting to pay them? That's what I'm trying to determine.
I'd like to hire 1 more person. As far as their salary goes, I mean, that would be anywhere from 50 to 75. Usually this is going to be a professional, someone who's graduated. I'm thinking someone from Southern Miss because they have an economic development program down there. So I can't give you the exact, I only have a range.
That's okay, but if you're asking for $250,000 and the person you're looking to hire maybe on the top end 70,000, I'm just trying to deduce where the rest of the money may go.
Yeah, well, that'll go toward, well, one, the cost of everything has gone up. We're mandated by law to have 4 meetings per year, so it'll help with operations of the authority. And then also, the salary and then the marketing. We need to increase our marketing.
I guess if and I'm not saying I'm against what you're asking for, I just want to be sure I'm putting it into the appropriate categories. If it is 70,000 for salaries, we need to say 70,000 for salaries. And if it's another 100,000 for marketing, we just need to be clear about what the request is here. So I think we started the conversation by saying it was 250 for salaries, and I could have misunderstood you. That is very possible.
No, I did say
250, okay.
but most of it would be salary. Between me, the office manager, and a few employees, not to mention their benefits, retirement. We don't offer health care, but we've been authorized to offer through the state. I have my health care. The office manager retired.
Is part of the request raises for the current employees as well?
Yeah, I didn't get a raise last year.
Okay. Can you tell us about that? Sort of what that would look like, just so that we're clear about what the request is.
Yeah, I don't know what the exact amount would be, but the last time I got a raise, they gave me a 5%. Same for the office manager. So want to know the exact amount that I get paid? I can answer that.
Well, I'm just wanting to know, of the 250,000 that you're asking for from us, what is that for? If it's for a raise, then how much for you and the other employee? And then you already mentioned the person you're looking to hire, maybe in the 50 to 70,000 range.
Yeah, the board that I work for sets the amount. Like I said, the last time I did get a raise.
Okay. Anybody else have questions?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. Senator Butler.
Six years. Yes, sir. Be seven in June. We have 24 members. The governors of each of the states are members of the authority, and they appoint 5 members from each state. So Governor Reeves appointed 5 people to serve on the authority from Mississippi. Yes, sir. It's in the form that I filled out for the online budget request. Each state is listed, the amount, and I can tell you what each state offers or contributes to the authority. It's in the form, yes, sir. But it's 85,000 from Kentucky, 50,000. Okay.
Other questions? Okay, we thank you for your time.
Well, thank you for letting me come early as well, even if it did rain a little bit.
Thank
It's
you.
okay. Thank you.
Mr. Robertson, are you on Zoom with us? If you can hit your button to unmute, please, sir. Okay, Mr. Robertson, are you there?
I'm testing my audio. Can the room hear me?
We've got you now, loud and clear.
Okay, I can hear, but it's a little bit faint on this end. But let me try one thing if you can spot me just 30 seconds.
Okay, sure.
I'm testing a headset. Can you hear me any better?
We can see and hear you.
I hear you much better if that works. Thank you.
Well, thank you for taking time to hop on Zoom. We appreciate your service and everything you're doing for us, and we will give you the floor, sir.
Forgive me, is Mr. Brad Stevens there, our board president?
He is here right in front of me. If you would like for him
Okay.
to take the lead, that'd be fine too.
Yeah, as I told the House, I told Brad I wasn't going to be there, and I was going to make him be in the mosh pit and take all of the difficult questions. But seriously, if you don't mind, I'd like to let the board president open us up. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, members. Always a privilege to be down and visit your committee. I do have some handouts. Thank you for saving me, though. Not have enough, but it basically surmises what our director, Drew, will be going through. I will, as you have already seen, Drew Robertson is our executive director. Today, he is actually serving in the official capacity as colonel of the 210th Brigade Command in Puerto Rico, taking care of our military service there. But he is a full-time director and doing a great job. Ladies and gentlemen, I have done this for several years, and I'm always in awe when I come down and I see and reflect on what we've done as an agency. Someone had the foresight 60 some odd years ago in this chamber to create the Tom Bigby River Valley Water Management District, and it is serving its 13 counties well. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our director and let him walk through the basics of the budget. Drew?
Yeah, thank you. And I'd be very remiss if I didn't just quickly start off and say, thank you to Audrey Galloway at DFA, and certainly Tina Carter, our LBO budget analyst, and then Chandra Christie, certainly, and Corbin, just for helping us pull off the Zoom. And also, it seems like it might be a staged comment, but I can't say enough about Brad Stevens and the leadership he brings, as a volunteer, pretty much to help us pull off our day-to-day operations for our employees and our residents in our 13 counties. I'm going to give you two primary takeaways. I have one alibi I want to add, and then I will certainly yield the floor for any questions whatsoever. I'd like to point out that we don't have any issues to report regarding capital outlays, services, travel budget expenditures, or nor revenue funding, which I believe everyone knows we get from the 13 counties through the ad valorem taxes. And then the second issue, looking at our agency budget book report, you will notice that there's a delta of $244,000 between what we've requested and what's been recommended for salaries and fringe benefits. So one of the primary focuses that we have is we are trying to increase salaries and fringe to combat market forces and the downed economy and just the competition in Northeast Mississippi so that we can retain our employees, but also to implement the state employee classification and compensation initiative, which we all know as SEC squared. I'm trying to get with, we now have an evaluations process in place where we do initial 6-month and 1-year evaluations, trying to implement a merit-based pay incentive. And to do that, we're forecasting 10% increases. That doesn't mean that we're going to give 10% increases, but I'm trying to have the flexibility within the SEC squared program, not only to implement up to a 10% increase, but also to be able to implement the caps for each of the new position categories. And presently, we don't have that spending authority. So we have asked for $1,650,000 in FY 2024 request for salaries and fringe for total compensation. And the recommendation right now is for $1,399,088. So we can't do everything that we would like to do with that amount. We certainly can do more than we did in years past. But that's the big ask, is trying to help us fulfill the delta so that we can increment our ability to incentivize and reward our employees who do perform. Lastly, the one alibi I have, which is not really budget related, but certainly applicable, We are presently working with Kemper County Board of Supervisors, also the Michael Ted Evans, the Kemper County representative, and state local officials in Kemper County to transfer ownership of Kemper Lake from the Tom Bigby River Valley Water Management District to Kemper County. The lake is presently leased from the county for us. I say leased, we basically let them take it. And then the Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks manages that. We've done the analysis and the calculus on this over the last year plus, and we feel that the county can be a better steward of that asset for the residents of Kemper than we do. There's no monetary loss for us or any risk to the county in that, but that should be coming to the floor here in this session. With that, I'm subject to your questions. I'll yield the floor, and thank you very much for allowing us to present today.
Thank you, Colonel. I don't have any questions. Do any of the committee members have questions? Chairman Hobson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Colonel, Drew, it's good to see you again, buddy. It's been a long time.
Absolutely,
And
good. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I heard you were on, and I had to get in here to say hello to you. I want to thank you for your service to our country and our state. I'm sorry, we're getting some little feedback from the mic, I think. But anyway, I want to thank you. It's great to see you, and I look forward to the time we can get together again. It's been too many years.
Thank you for that. And I'm not trying to have a hug fest with anybody there, but there are many, many ways to serve. And certainly the folks in this room are serving. So I appreciate the comment, but thank you as well.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you for coming. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
I believe Pat Harrison is here. We'll go ahead and hear from you if you're ready. All righty, gentlemen, we will give you the floor. Thank you for coming. If you'll speak into the microphone and push so it turns green, that's okay. If you'll push the button until you see the green come on. You have to, there you go.
All right,
You
it's
got it.
on now. Should be. All right. Thank you for having us today. I'd like to the Deputy Director for Pat Harris. All right, we'll get it working. Now you can just talk. There we go. We'll do it anyway. What I have provided to you, Senator, is a copy of a legislative update that we had today down the hall for all the legislators, senators, representatives, and boards of supervisors within the Pat Harrison Waterway District. We do this annually to bring our people, our senators and representatives, and the boards of supervisors up to date. So that's what that booklet is. Just quickly, if you haven't seen a copy of the peer review, I do have a copy if you would like to see it. I'll give that one to you. Anyway, that's a copy that I brought with me to give to you. You know, we are a special funded agency, and in August, we submitted our budget, but we've had some events to take place since that time, such as the horse trail down at Flint Creek. We got a grant from MDOT for $400,000, and it's an 80-20 match. And so we need additional spending authority to cover that item. Then DEQ has required us to update one of our dams down in Lamar County. It's a $680,000 project. They are putting in $300,000. We've got to come up with $380,000. So we need additional spending authority to do all that. It'll be about $1 million. Let me see, about $1.4 million of additional spending authority. We sent a request in to Senator Hobson and to Representative John Reed making this request. We haven't gotten approval, but letters have been sent to them on the appropriations in order to come up with the money that we need in a spending authority to do that. And if you have any additional funding, we would like to receive that on the $380,000 on the dam. They have paid the cost of upgrading that dam to high hazard. Something we had not expected to do. So that we'd like to keep all of our pens, people, and but we do have some contract employees that we could surrender some of those pens if we have to, but we would prefer to keep all of those to do that.
Let me jump in. Something does stand out to me. You have 17 vacant full-time pens. Do you know on average how long these pens have been vacant? Are they recent vacancies or?
I would say 6 months it'd be vacant. We are looking at that because we had to evaluate our budget to see where we are. And our funding, we're slack right now on that camping. I'll be honest with you. We don't have as many people camping this time of the year as we normally would. So, but we expect that to start by the 1st of February with Mardi Gras and things coming on. Our income is going to come up, and so we probably will be filling some of those positions. We said we're going to fill all of them, but we do plan to fill some of them.
Talk to us about I know your special fund, but break down for us the actual source of revenue. I think it's a combination of things.
It is. The counties put in 7/8 of a meal each year. And that is probably about half of our funding. The other comes from camping, recreation, fishing, and then on that activities that we have at our park. And we have special events through that, like Mardi Gras. A lot of our income will come at this time of the year from people in New Orleans who rent their homes out. They move into our parks. They're making more money off of renting their homes and all, and they stay in our park. And we got some that stay there year round. And that's where we generate our fund. It comes from the camping and overnight camping as well as our cabin. Got 91 cabins. And then so people rent those. And we in the process of remodeling some of those. But then the board of supervisors, 7/8 of a meal in the 10 counties. We are fortunate, though, Josh can allude to this, Kemper County is joining Pat Harrison. That's a brand new county coming in. We will be taking over their lake and operating that lake for Kemper County, which they have asked us to do. We are looking at additional counties. Possibly your home county, Neshoba, is one that has expressed an interest to be part of Pat Harrison. So we're working with other counties to bring them in, to increase our membership and to also provide a service to those counties.
Okay. Do any of the committee members have questions? Yes, ma'am.
If I may, so if I understand correctly, this is just a consortium of parks, state parks, are these all part of the state park under the wildlife and fisheries, or is this separate? These parks are run separately? Okay. It does. It's, I was just curious. Wanted to make sure they were a separation. All right. Thank you,
Tell us
Madam
ab-
Chairman.
I'm sorry, Senator. Thank you. Your board, tell us what it consists of. Do you have a member from each county that's a member of your agency?
Board of Supervisors appoints a director. of their county. We have 3 on our board that are appointed by the governor. Or here's have one at the north end, middle, and the south end. Governor. We have one that just, he's resigning because he and his wife both are moving to a nursing home. But Rex Height represents Mike Smith represents George County from the governor. We appoint somebody else in the middle. So that's how our board is organized. These board of supervisors appoint their own. We don't appoint those. They send that person to.
Okay, that's helpful information. Any other questions? I think that's all we have. Yes, sir, Senator Butler.
Each member county board of supervisors will select a person from their county that serves on our board. That's my directors. That's who I report to. But they select their own person. And to do that.
Okay, I think that's all the questions we have for you today. Thank you for coming.
Well, thank you. See that? Yeah, I just have a quick question.
Sure.
There's already legislation in place for board of supervisors. That's what they proposed to do. Whatever's easier. And now we're proposing allow temper. Once that happens, what we have projected here does not. So once we take that on, that's going to be a whole nother problem. That's going to be a whole nother set of monies out there. Yeah, because we don't know what it includes. So my question is, what if we need that extra spending authority for April, for May, June, July? Oh, okay, not.
Y'all could include some spending authority in case that happens.
That's the only thing I'm worried about.
personnel as well. Because whenever Tom Bibby transfers over, they want to make it right. They're automatically going to, they will have. That's the right there. We're going to do more. That's another one. I know they run a low. But we'll get that for you. Okay, thank you.
I apologize, y'all. We have one more. Pearl River Valley Water Supply. Whoever is presenting can move to this first chair if you would like. That's closer to me. Whoever will be speaking right here, the microphone is already on green and ready to go. That's fine.
Senator Brink, thank you all. I'm Adam Choate. I'm the Deputy Director of Pearl River Valley Water Supply District, which is the reservoir and our campgrounds and day parks and boat ramps and everything in the 5-county reservoir area. This is Mr. John Sigmund. He's our Executive Director. Karen Brister is our Finance Director, and Mr. Jack Winstead is one of our board members who's joined us today. The good news is we're not asking for any general fund money at all. We're a special fund. Most of our money comes from the leases that people pay that live on property. And we have water sewer income from our water customers. And then we have some money from our campgrounds, mostly Timberlake, Goshen Springs, and then we have a couple more upriver. Mr. Sigmund, did you want to add anything or start off?
Just grab a mic if you will and be sure it's on green. Thank you, sir.
Excuse me, we're a state agency established by statute in 1958. We are a body politic and corporate, so we're oftentimes called semi or quasi or whatever, but we're a full-fledged state agency. And we're a special fund, and we do raise our own money. And as Adam has said, we would like to spend that money. So basically, our budget bill is a spending authorization. We do collect most of our money from lease revenues for commercial residential properties where people live and work on the reservoir. We have 50,000 acres of property, and about 4,000 is under lease for commercial and residential. We have 10,000 acres of forest, so we have significant forest income. We manage the forest for income and habitat. And we, although it is sporadic, we do occasionally have good timber sales. We do have needs in the water and sewer area. We provide all the people who live on our property with those services. The water comes from wells. It doesn't come from the lake, by the way. And we have had one of our wells fail. We're on the margin there now for capacity, and we want to replace that well, and we would like to use ARPA funds, but we, state agencies, did not qualify for ARPA funds. We feel like there is some minor modifications that can be done to 3 or 4 pieces of legislation passed last year that would allow us to qualify. And we certainly want to be able to access some of that money given to DEQ and the Department of Health for those purposes. I'd like to ask Adam to go ahead and talk about some other things.
This booklet that we put together includes our 5 biggest priorities, and we believe that they would fall under ARPA if the legislature so willing to help us out that way. We were not eligible for the DEQ money because in order to get that, you had to have matching local coronavirus money. We did not get that because we're not a county or a city, so we were ineligible to apply through the DEQ to get ARPA wastewater funds. We could not apply for drinking water funds through the Department of Health because we're not considered a rural water association. So we were left out altogether, even though we have the same needs as counties and municipalities who do the same things that we do. The number one need, like Mr. Sigmund said, the number one, we had a well that went out. Now, all the water that y'all drink here in Jackson comes from the lake. It goes through the water treatment plants in Jackson and comes here. But all of our residents, we have about 6,000 paying customers, about 15,000 or so people live around the lake. Their water comes from wells. And one of them went out, and it's at some point, it's really going to hurt us, and we do need to replace that. It is eligible under ARPA, although we'd be happy to take any funds that you all might give us. The second one, these gates have been there since the early 60s, and they need some major rehab. And it would be a big hit to us if we were to try to pay for that. And so we're asking for some funds to help rehabilitate the gates. We think those costs would be about $3.8 million. Thirdly, water storage tank repair and rehabilitation. We have done some pre-work to see what we need to do, and we've got several water tanks that need to be repaired. And at some point, we're just going to have to do that. And we do need some help with that. Number 4, I have been talking with a DPS and Homeland Security to get some money for these cameras, so I'm hoping they can actually help us with these. On Upper Spillway, we have the control tower that y'all pass every day if you go on Upper Spillway, and it helps us for safety reasons, for police reasons, and we really need some more cameras. One of the pictures there shows you a lot of the cameras that are not working, and a lot of the ones that are working are outdated. So we are trying to upgrade those, but we do think, fingers crossed, that DPS can help us with that. We've been in talks with them. And lastly, with our sewer along Pelahatchie Bay, we just need a survey done. We think it'd be about $500,000 just over time. We don't know what all has happened. We just have to take a look and see. Some damage has been done to a lot of our pipes, and we think an evaluation would cost about $500,000. As of right now, our water sewer fund has about $830,000 in it. And obviously these projects are put together are more than that. And so that's why we're asking for some money.
I do have a few questions, so I'll
Yes,
go
ma'am.
ahead and jump in. You mentioned $830,000 in the water and sewer fund. Is that the only available cash reserves that you have in any funds?
Well, it is not, but we get audited every year, and we are told that from an accounting and auditing perspective, we're not allowed to use any other funds. Anything that we collect must only be spent for those purposes. Is there anything that we need to add to that to explain that?
Our 1986 court settlement with the Hines County lawsuit specified that we could not use lease money for services. Water and sewer is considered services. So we have to charge the residents or the users for those specific services. So we can't mix those funds.
So in other words, you, just like a utility would operate and charge customers for water and sewer service, what you're telling me is that those fees that you're charging those customers is what is to be used to go back into and repair the well, so to speak. In other
Yes.
words, you've got to keep your money separate.
We got to keep the water sewer money in our enterprise fund. The other funds that we have can be spent for many things, but not anything that is considered a service like fire protection or police protection or water and sewer service.
In your budget, in your financial plan for the utility side, if I can refer to it that way, do you work into your budget an annual or maybe a monthly set aside in anticipation for a well needing to be repaired or any other types of your utility infrastructure over time?
Yes, we do. We in fact fund depreciation in our accounting system, and we do set aside small amounts each year for capital improvements. They've been tapped very hard in the last few years.
I
It's happened.
understand. Right. I understand. Okay. How many employees do you have presently?
We have 119 pins and one more time limited pin, so a total of 120. We do want to keep all of our pins.
How many of those are vacant?
We have trouble on the lower scale. We have some job positions for manual labor and grass cutters and things like that that really pay very little above minimum wage.
Sure. Of the vacancies, what would be your average length of the vacancy? Would you say they're more than 6 months?
If they're more than 6 months, they probably aren't a lot longer than 6 months, I don't think. May have it right there. We'll hire them, and then they leave pretty quickly. Our maintenance shop workers, the guys who work water, sewer, grass crew, we've been working with a lot of inmates. We work with Rankin County work release inmates. because we've had to use them to sort of fill those gaps. We've started doing that recently. We've also been working with SPB to get rid of some of the current vacant pins that we have and change those to jobs that we could actually fill and ones that we need, like some engineering techs, some more housing inspectors and things like that. So we're in the process of hopefully trying to get some better pins because we do have a need and we do want to fill them.
Any questions by any committee members? Senator Butler?
Yes, sir. How long have they been vacant? Tina has the sheet. Do you have that sheet in front of you? Or Karen may have it. Vacancy dates that I'm looking at are mostly from 2022 or 2021. Some are 2021. We're trying. We do advertise for them. They pay. We've had the past few months. I've done 2 job fairs. We open them up. We advertise. They pay about $24,000. So it's been very tough. Under SEC 2, we have given some raises, but it's going to take a while to be able to recruit the way that we want to. I may not understand the question. I'm sorry. Well, it is all special funds, so there's no general fund money. And is there any money that's spent?
Okay, tell us about I understand y'all are in the process of conducting some dredging operations or improvements. Kind of update us on that.
We are in fact doing dredging. It's behind, but as far as I know, the quality of the dredging is going good. It's good, but it is slow. Mr. Sigmund, you want to update?
We currently have a $2.8 million dredging contract underway, funded by the legislature. We do not have the money to fund dredging, which is a very expensive activity. But that is by legislation also largely confined to Pelahatchie Bay. So we have not had opportunity to get on the Madison side or go up river. Those are the next programs that we have, and we have another $3.5 million program laid out for that. We just got to find some money, and hopefully we will be able to get some here a little bit later. I think Senator Michelle has put in some going to put in some legislation, that sort of thing, to help us get get the dredging going. Now, the reason we have to dredge is because all the communities around us are constantly under construction, and we receive construction runoff in terms of settlement, and we have to keep those creeks and bays open. It's a very personal thing to the people who live there. Of course, if they can't get their boat in and out and things like that. So we do pay a lot of attention to dredging.
Okay. Other questions? Okay, well, we appreciate you coming over. Yes, sir. Absolutely.
People for fishing, swimming, skiing, and this type of thing. and there's no charge for the people that use that. I live at the reservoir inside of one of the boat launching ramps, and, it's heavily used, and that's great, but, that's the reason we're faced with this. Only the leaseholders pay for this, and it's open to everyone. Now, I picked up last night, Madam Chair Lady, I think, is an alligator hunter, and we're gonna have a special alligator hunt out there this year. We've had it going, but, things like this, when we've got an area of Peelhatchie Bay where we actually have too many alligators, and we're gonna have a special alligator hunt out there. So there's a lot of things that the public enjoys and uses this reservoir for. And I think y'all probably know it, but I just want to emphasize it. We have a tremendous number of people, fishing tournaments, and we're getting new industry out there. We got our commercial land. We have people looking about building restaurants. The area is growing, but the leaseholders are carrying the total load of the operation.
Okay, no, I appreciate the comments. I really do. All right, we thank you for your time for coming over today. Thank you.